On this week's episode of Famous Made, we have a special guest.
Yo, this is DJ Skizz live from Brooklyn. You're checking out Famous Made. Bang! A DJ, producer, been doing this for over 20 years now. Did radio for many years in New York City. And yeah, been doing a lot of producing albums of late, working with different artists. Put out my own records, producer albums and things like that, compilations. And yeah, man, just that's me, basically, in a nutshell. My first start as far as like DJing would be on radio. I used to DJ down in New Orleans, this like college station called WTOL. I lived down there for a couple years, so I DJ'd on the radio there for a couple years. This was back in the late 90s, and then from there I moved to New York and I started to DJ on the halftime show with my man DJ Eclipse. Yeah, so basically I DJ'd on the radio there for quite some time. Actually, about 15 years I DJ'd on halftime radio here in New York City. And yeah, that's pretty much, you know, how I started in the biz. As far as the producing, I started, I guess my first real placement would be with Big Noid from Mobb Deep. Met him, I lived in Queens, and you know, from doing the radio and all that, started working with him, and that was like my first placement. The first check, I mean,
small, it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been just probably just getting like, you know, ASCAP, like publishing from that first record I did joints on with Noid. I'm trying to think. I mean, I sold some beats like independently like around that time, and that might have been something too, but I don't know the exact, you know what I mean, the exact one. But I've worked with man, Sean Price, rest in peace. Like I said, like Noid, Mobb Deep, MOP, Master Ace, Big Twin, also Mobb Deep. More recently, Crime Apple. Did a lot of work with Yoral Droog when he was first starting out. Let's see, Rock Marciano, also known as Rock Marcy, of course. And man, just a lot, just like, I don't know, a lot of people in the underground. You know what I mean? Dave East did Freeway, did a lot of joints with him. Shouts to Mussolini, man. Like, I just started working with him recently. He's real dope. New York representative, and yeah, I mean, we've been cooking recently. I don't know what we're gonna create as far as like a project, but right now we've been cooking, and he got a lot of dope music. He's working. So
how did you hear about him, and like what's the experience like working with him?
So I heard about him probably like just on social media. I know he's working with a lot of my fellow producers, my man Crisis, who I've known for a long time, and Ninth Wonder, and so I think I probably saw him through, you know, just on social media, through mutual people. And what it's like working with him, I will say, is that dude can write fast. You know what I mean? He yeah, like he'll throw on a beat and he'll have a song done in like an hour, and like we'll knock out multiple songs, at least three joints in a session, which is dope. You know what I mean? It's dope, and they all come out good, and yeah, it's efficient. I fucks with that. I think it's just time spent listening to music is probably the greatest investment. Just really studying music, all types of music, you know, spending time digging for records and just really listening. I think that's, yeah, I think time. This time, and also just the time that I spent learning the craft, and the technology, the history, just yeah, all that stuff. Oh man, the collection's pretty deep, but it's ever growing, and I'd say that it's got to be in the multiple thousands. I don't know how many thousand, but it's pretty deep. Early on, it was a lot of hip hop vinyl because I was doing a lot of, I was doing a radio show, and I was getting vinyl from the major labels back when they would send vinyl to like college radio shows and so forth. So I would get a lot of the promo vinyl from that. And then since I've become a producer and more into digging, then it's just been records from all over the world, just random stuff.
So do you know the oldest vinyl you have to the newest? Like, give me the oldest by date and the newest, if you think on top of your head.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd say usually I tend to, the music that I'm sampling or I go to is generally like from like the late 60s and then till now. I mean, yeah, till like, modern times basically. But I definitely, the 70s always of course got a lot of heat. And I love soul music, man. I love soul music. I love just music from that era. It definitely just has something about it. You know what I mean? If possible, analog gear for mixing. If you have it, if you got the space to do it, the technology, you got somebody who knows how to operate the analog gear properly. I think that's it's an ill way to mix. I mean, you're gonna get that warmth, and there's just nothing quite like it. But nowadays, everything is in the box. I mean, if I'm mixing my own records, it's in the box generally.
Alright, so you prefer a hit record or storytelling?
Storytelling usually. Yeah, generally. But it depends. I mean, it depends on where I'm at, what I'm doing, what my mood is. You know what I mean? If I'm in a club, I don't want to necessarily hear storytelling. I'd rather hear a hit record. But yeah.
Alright, so sampling, when it comes to sampling, vinyl or online sampling?
Vinyl for sampling, for sure. I've definitely sampled stuff online, but listening to a record on vinyl, it's easy to jump around to different parts of it, and it feels different than if you're doing that like on a digital thing like YouTube or something. I don't know, something about it. Maybe that's just because I'm old school like that, but yeah.
Would you rather plugins or all the sounds you could imagine but with no processing done to it?
Not sure I understand, but I think like plugins, in my opinion, should just be used when it's needed. I mean, like it's an additional thing. But I think if you have sounds that are just from instruments that are recorded in a really good way, in a unique way, to me it's always best to have, for example, if I want some horns in a song, it'd be great to have an actual horn player versus using a VST. Although, there's good VSTs and you can manipulate them and add plugins and make them sound like real instruments, but like that's kind of the goal. So it's always better just to have the real instrument in the first place. Producer albums are really dope. It's kind of just one of those things where it's always like it's difficult. It's difficult as a producer. Listening to as a listener, like I really enjoy them just because I'm a producer and I like to listen to what people are doing, and it can be inspiring. And there's also a lot of variety of voices on producer albums, which is dope. But generally, they're not like within the industry. They're not really. They don't generally sell that well compared to like solo albums. And also it's just difficult as a producer. You're trying to work with all these different people, so you're really counting on a lot of other people. And when you count on other people, things can happen. It can be just challenging. You know what I mean? Waiting on verses, sample clearing, all that stuff. It's just a lot of things. But I've done 3 of them, and I mean I'm happy I did it. You know what I mean? It was worth it for me. And I also enjoy just having the experience of working with different artists, because to me that's just fun, and it's like what I love to do as a producer. I mean, I like to work with different people and hear different voices.
Are you a real producer if all your records are sampled and you play nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, as far as like being a producer, that name I think has kind of evolved, you know, especially, well, in hip hop it's kind of different than in other genres in some ways, but the producer is not necessarily the person who's playing the music. In hip hop it has become that, and we call like beat makers are often also producers, and so they make records, they put the artists together, they might mix master stuff, they have a vision for what the song is going to be and that type of thing. But in hip hop, yeah, it's generally like a beat maker would be also a producer, and if they're using samples to make the music and it's dope, I don't give a fuck what it is. Like, I don't give a fuck what they're doing. They could be picking their nose, whatever it is. The shit comes out dope, that's cool. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about making great music. I don't really care how you do it, and I don't think most people do. You know, there's always going to be people who, you know, are people are passionate about the culture, you know what I mean, as I am, but I think at the end of the day, like, people are going to do what they do. You can't, all the rules and the gatekeeping shit is just not going to work. Like, it's not going to work, because the shit is always evolving. Sample-based hip-hop's always been such a important thing, and it's a beautiful thing.